Elon Musk sitting down for an exclusive interview alongside 7 members of the DOGE team, giving a peek behind the curtain of President Trump's cost-cutting department.
It was amazing. Yep. You got to watch the whole thing. The team consists of a wide range of experts, including a former rocket scientist. You think he'd be qualified to fix the government, and I believe he is. And one of the co-founders of the runaway success Airbnb, a billionaire who's donating his time.
The DOGE team also consists of engineers, and they all have the same goal: to slash wasteful government spending. Watch.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. The critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. You know, one of the things I learned at PayPal was you know who complains the loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation? The fraudsters. It's a tell. There's some of these NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams' NGO that basically didn't exist and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government. She says, why? And there are many such cases like that.
I love that he brought that up. Just love it.
Well, it's true because, you know, the more and more we discuss this, I'm like, do these people think we're stupid? I mean, they've been spending all this money. Meanwhile, we've kind of highlighted all the tragedies that are happening in this country as it relates to different communities. You got homeless veterans. You got a crisis when it came to the wildfires in California. You got a crisis in North Carolina. And all these people are like, we have no money. We have no money. Meanwhile, they have found all of these other programs to give money to, and somehow they all link back to Democrat organizations or Democrat donors or politicians.
So DOGE savings so far, they say, and you can go on the website, doge.gov.com, $130 billion. Their goal is to save $4 billion a day, and they are doing it. They're talking about systems. And when it comes to talking about modernizing systems, think about it. You come in, you're there 2 years, maybe 4 years as Treasury Secretary. Once in a while, you stay the whole time. There's no motivation to reform things. And as soon as you get on a roll or make some suggestions, somebody else is in charge. So what you do is you continue with that systems, which explains why manually Social Security is handled, why it's so costly to explain to people how to retire, let alone to actually retire. And there's fraud within the system. So with every taxpayer so far has saved $807. But what he's doing different that's caused controversy, it's not one of those typical things like Simpson Bowles and says, we studied for 2 years, and here's how you save. And at the end of it, no one did it. He's saying, I'm cutting it in real time. Catch me if you can, but you can examine what I'm doing. But just know I'm doing it to make the government not cut back on services. If you look at how many people have been fired, they say 0.05. Many people have decided I'm taking the payout. I'm going to leave on my own. Here's a little on Social Security. He said this over and over again. I am not cutting Social Security. I'm changing the way Social Security is done and cutting out the fraud. Watch.
The 2 improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protecting them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
What we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of DOGE, will receive more Social Security, not less.
You've heard a lot of news about rifts, about people getting fired. At this moment in time, less than 0.15, not 1.5, less than 0.15 of the federal workforce has actually been given a RIF notice.
It's incredible.
Who could be against this, you guys? I mean, who could be against reforming these systems? And by the way, didn't you also, when they were explaining the whole Social Security thing, there's this giant mine and there's paperwork and there's carts and people are going through files and they're ancient like us and they have manila folders.
For the retirement.
For the retirement stuff. And you're going, and this is the same system we had in 1950. It's like, what's everybody been doing until now?
But Rachel, did you hear what he said? You have to, in the federal government, to retire, you have to take a course to be able to retire because the process is so complicated. I've never heard of anything like that. Right. In the private sector, when you retire, you know, HR gives you the paperwork, it's digitized, and you leave. Everybody does a, you know, victory lap, and that's it. Apparently, with the federal government, they found some way to make your last days complicated.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah. And by the way, if people are coming and they're defrauding the government and they're be able to change the direct deposit for your family, and all of a sudden you're not getting your checks, even if they restore your checks, that money is still going to that person's account. You're defrauded most likely by people outside the country. Now, HHS is turned, and the Pentagon. HHS is going to cut, according to RFK, is going to announce cutting of 10,000 employees. Now, why would he do that? Well, the three largest Medicaid insurers received more than $200 billion in duplicate payments between 2019 and 2021.
How does that happen?
Because there's people doing the same job, answering the same questions, paying out with taxpayer dollars. If it was their money, they would not 100%. Be doing this. So they want to have all the computers talk to each other. And the way I understood it is this: if you are a fraudster and you call up and you say, "This is Social Security number, I am such and such person, I need an SBA loan," you get it. The problem is that person's 9 months old and you're somebody different. Well, how would you know that? Well, the reason why you don't know it is because Social Security, where your age and you're logged in when you're born, is not talking to the SBA. Right. Now the computers are all getting linked together, and it's going to light up and say, "You're 9 months old, you're a fraudster, you're under arrest." We're certainly not going to write the check.
It's also, and I think this is probably one of the most brilliant things he's doing, because it will live on beyond Elon and DOGE being, you know, this involved in government. They're going to put every single contract online so they can, and so you're going to have outside groups be able to go, what? You know, $200 million go into this, or, you know, money for transing in Guatemala. I mean, we're going to now be able to see, because what has happened before is it's both incompetence, but there's a lot of fraud. There's people
corruption.
that love, corruption. They love the opaqueness of the whole system, and they're able to tuck money away for this, but it's actually a Democrat-funded group. This has been a money laundering scam, and as he said, that's why they're screaming the loudest.
All I can tell you is, before the pandemic, we were spending $4.5 trillion. Now we're spending over $6 trillion. The pandemic's over, according to reports. Why are we still paying $6 trillion? So anybody else would shrink their budget. That's what we're asking. If he could cut $1 trillion without them blowing up every electric car that he made, it would really help the country.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.